So, Geoff, here we've got a child's burial, and it clearly, from imported wares of pottery and clay figurines, it's the child of presumably a very wealthy person. I mean, can we speculate who it's likely to be?
Well, you can't obviously tell exactly, but clearly it's somebody who cherishes their child and has the means to express their love through quite valuable objects. And the sorts of people who might do that are traders, and also you've got army personnel who have retired, chosen to stay in Britain, to make their homes in Britain, have good amounts of money available to them when they retire, and set up houses, buy land, buy villas, and therefore have the means to express themselves in this way.
The child dies and the distraught parents go out and they can easily buy the 3 coarser vessels in the local market and then have to dig deep into their pockets for the more elaborate and more expensive vessel. And this vessel here, which Geoff will tell us about in a minute, contained the cremated bones of the child. And the finders said that there were pottery vessels, this one and this one, on either side. Well, that one was standing up. And then, amazingly, on either side of the cremation vessel, there were these pipe clay figurines. Now, Geoff, where do we want to start? Do you want to tell us about the cremation vessel itself?
Yes.
Where's that coming from?
This is coming from the Rhineland. It's one of the Samian potteries in Germany. And it belongs to the late 2nd century. They're not very common in Britain. They're not absolutely rare, but they're certainly not common. They're drinking vessels. They're made for drinking originally, with nicely turned feet. And that one, as you can see from the bottom, has got virtually no wear at all. So it was probably bought for the purpose of burying this little girl.
So it would have gone into the ground very quickly after.
Very quickly.
And not used in a domestic...
No, not used in a domestic sense at all. Right, the pipe clay figures, they come from either central France or the Rhineland.
They're wonderful objects.
Yes, they really are.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that Alison talks about actually is this band around the ball. And that's a band that's put on in a typical way when they're making a sacrifice or they're using the animal and leading it to sacrifice. They put a sort of a sash around its middle, and that's what that's supposed to represent there.
These fellows, the black one,
and the one here.
Yeah, they're known as black burnish ware, aren't they? They've normally got this sort of cross pattern on them.
Lattice work, isn't it?
Lattice work.
And the last vessel is this rather, or by comparison, it's another coarseware vessel, presumably locally made.
Yes, I mean, one's got to think about this. You've got the cremation there.
So the cremation is in the middle.
It is in the middle.
These two are there.
You've probably got some perhaps dried fruits or something like that in this little dish. Here is the drinking vessel, which may well have had some liquid in it when it was buried. And then this fellow is the basic porridge container, and I suspect actually had barley or something like that in it.
The other thing that's worth talking about, Geoff, is burials inside urban areas or inside walled areas. This is a child burial in the middle of Godmanchester. And that would have been okay, because children up to the age of perhaps 2 or 3 weren't considered to be full members of society until they went beyond those number of years. So you can actually bury or cremate inside a walled area quite happily.
Yes.
But it's rather different with adults, isn't it?
Yes, adult burial within the walls of a town was officially prohibited.
I mean, overall, they clearly did not want burials inside towns for the simple reason it would have polluted watercourses.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. And there were a whole set of rules about things you couldn't do within towns, like making pottery. Or tanning and things like that, for pollution or fire reasons. There was a fairly sophisticated society.
Yeah.
This pottery was made in France. The potters made vast quantities of vessels often firing 30,000 at a time. It has this nice red glossy slip, and they mark their vessels, and you can see here in the middle perhaps a name, and the name of this potter was Marcellinus. It was exported in huge quantities. They also made decorated vessels. This is a mould-made vessel, and really one made in rather an old mould, because you can see the hair here is very flat and smudged. It ought to be in nice high relief. And he's running between two sort of bushes, which are made out of little impressed stamps. When the antiquaries first began to find this material, they recognized this stuff as being something rather special. And the rest of the pottery, they tended, particularly these sorts of vessels, which didn't have decoration or colour on them, they used to call common wares. And this is a description which you find certainly in the 19th century and the early 20th century. And then that got transformed and people started calling them coarse pottery. But there's nothing really coarse about a vessel like that. It's very finely made.
Gardening within the walls. Yes, I see Godmanchester actually as being of that sort of class of town, really. So when they've killed their pig, what are they doing with it then? How are they bringing that carcass onto the table?
Well, obviously there was fresh meat, but also there would have been a lot of preserved meat. Salted, certainly, smoked as well, because that was the standard way of preserving meat for the winter. And as far as the army was concerned, that was the standard way they would be consuming their hardtack rations. Bacon was the meat of choice. And we shouldn't neglect fish. Fen is just on our doorstep, fresh water and
brackish water
fish which could be preserved. So that's the sort of picture which we've got. Allotments within the town, larger scale farming outside the town, and then bringing the food into the town to be converted.
And did they have menus that they followed?
Indeed. What you've got to think about is table dining, or the cena, as the Romans called it, is the thing you see on all the pictures with people sitting round on, or laying around on couches
with a
table in the middle.
Yeah.
And the thing that would surprise us, I think, is the number and complexity of the sauces which were available. And these would have been in small dishes like this, which you could hold in the hand, and you took food and you dipped it into the sauce with your fingers and then ate it. You can see there a bottle of fish sauce, a modern bottle. Fish sauce, extremely important and very valuable, brought from southern Spain, brought from Africa in amphorae, and it would be brought into a town like Godmanchester and then decanted into smaller vessels to be sold on the market. And then we come to wine. The very best Falernian wine was very expensive. The army got the rough end of the stick. They were only allowed sour wine when they were on campaign. The Romans always diluted their wine. So here we go, and here is a Samian cup, and notice this Samian cup has a curious shape. It's got two curves. And if I pour the wine into the first part...
Is this yours or mine?
Oh, well, it might be ours because I'm driving. The contents there represent 1 unit. And now if I pour water in...
And you're mixing it, yeah. And how much are you pouring in there then?
That represents to the brim 2 more units. And now I will take a mixer, as the Romans would have had, to keep it mixed. And then we take it and we drink. Now, of course, having said that it's diluted, it does enable you to drink a little more. So in the end, at the end of the formal meals, they got just as legless as the galls.